Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here, Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to a very, very, very snowy morning. I think it must have snowed like 5 to 6 inches last night. And, So, you're always going to get the weather report because it means something to us.
And she's still got a little carryover snow kind of trauma from her years of living up in the North Mountains here.
So I lived like where we're at right now, just on the other side of a mountain range, a little mountain valley. And there was a year I was there, just my daughter and myself on this little kind of hobby farm. And we had a tractor that had a snow plow attached to the back of it. And Leslie, I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
And so one year, so I would have to do this big tractor. It was a birthday present. And I'm driving it backwards and throwing the snow. It got to the point where it could not throw it over the edge of the snow anymore. I would stand with my hand like this and it could not reach the top. And I remember crying. And so I was like, they kept telling us, don't shove the snow to the other side of the street. And it was like an old golf course. And I was like, they have no choice. So proceeded to shove the snow on the other side of the street. But it was traumatic. It took a while before when the snow would start that I wouldn't get all teary and want to go hide in a corner and suck my thumb.
I hear the trauma in that. I think we can save it for another day. I want to come back to this part about you got a tractor for your birthday. That's a whole nother subject.
I did.
So, yeah.
I got a tractor for my birthday.
Yeah,
I don't have the tractor anymore.
Oh yeah.
But,
okay. Well, you got a birthday coming.
I think Jim's going to buy me a tractor. Yeah. No, I got a tractor for my birthday. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, So that was a fun thing.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in on this Friday. We have a distinguished guest with us standing by. So we're happy to have Chuck Bonanno here. So stay tuned. We got a couple quick announcements. We're now less than a week from our event. And by my count, Michelle, there are about 13,000 dealers who haven't signed up yet. The Buy Here, Pay Here dealers out there. So we need to get
right. So, get on it, guys. There's a ton of them out there. Yeah. If you haven't yet, it's not too late. And we still have the Morning Show 100 is $100 off. So please, thanks, Karen. It's sunny and warm.
For your NIADA members, you can do NIADA 100 as well.
St. George, it's a little bit warmer down there.
For sure.
So
anyway.
So kind of in the we're Utah, same state,
right?
And 48 and rainy.
And one other quick announcement: next week after next, April 4th, Bill Elizondo has a collections course. Yes. You can find information on that at niada.com. So,
and
most of you, I'm sure, listening are collecting just perfectly. But for any of you that are coming up a little bit short, you might want to jump on that.
I mean, 100%, right?
Yeah,
we're all there. Is that where we are? And then end of next month and end of April is Buy Here, Pay Here United. So you've probably been seeing a lot of the social media about that. And so I hope you've got that on your calendar because, one of the things we do is we're trying to create an alternative. If you can't make it to a live event, we suggest you go to a live event because there is nothing like going to a live event and shaking hands and having conversations and all of that.
And get a photo with Bill Elizondo.
Right, exactly, and his hat. Yeah. And we got to make sure he gets his bill on a drill stick. Yes. But if you can't make it, because we know that you can't, a lot of you can't make it to everything that's happening. That's why we've created the BHPH Nation TV station.
We'll bring it to you when you
so
can't
we can
get
bring
there,
what we can to
we'll bring
you.
the stuff to you.
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
What else we got? Anything?
Nothing. Let's bring Chuck in. He's the smart one. Let's get him involved in the conversation. So.
Hi, Chuck.
Welcome. Good morning, guys.
So glad to have you here.
You're in Florida.
Yes.
It's warm there.
Yes. It's 82, sunny, breezy.
We were there last year this time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Chuck, we still got some belongings in a storage unit.
Yeah,
back
do you
in
want to go
Florida.
like
Yeah, go look through them.
I told Michelle yesterday, you'll know, because I was out shoveling snow. So I was shoveling snow. I told her, I said, if you look around and I'm not here this afternoon, you'll know I went to Florida to get that other stuff in the
and
belongings.
I'll be back when it's warm.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So we're glad to have you here, especially the first time back since the announcement about you stepping into the chair as executive director of Florida. Such a great fit. We're excited about
we
that.
were really excited when we saw that. That's
Well,
pretty cool.
I'm excited as well. You know, all the things in your life that guide you to a certain place, it's where you're probably supposed to be. Well, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
that's wonderful. And, you know, what a wealth of experience and knowledge and wisdom, because you've been at this for a while. So there's, you know, it's one thing to have experience and knowledge, but wisdom, because it's like, I've been through a lot of stuff, my own things. And so, yeah, that's really, really great opportunity for Florida.
Yeah.
Really.
And I need to learn kind of how you manifested that thing where you ended up where you're supposed to be, because I'm supposed to be working remotely in Cancun.
Yeah.
Hasn't come together.
It starts with visualization.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Visualization. Okay.
We're glad to have you here. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. And as I shared, we had a short conversation by phone yesterday. I say to you on the show that we're fans of FIADA. We've been out there and been involved in the recent conference, and of course we've been residents for a time, but just know that we're here to support FIADA at any opportunity. Yes. And so we'll be figuring that out. Just know we're a resource. You can reach out to us in turn.
We will be back.
Yes. Well, it's very much appreciated. Associations work with partnerships of the association to coordinate dealers to dealers and dealers to vendors, and just know that we're all partners in this crazy industry that we're in.
Yeah. That's okay.
You know, it's funny because technically Jim and I are vendors. But because Jim has the experience as a dealer himself, that he's just like, I'm a hybrid.
Yeah.
So,
well, and as coaches, and you get this, as coaches, we have chosen to be agnostic when it comes to other providers. And, you know, we tend to say that we only refer people to folks that we know. Like, we want to know the people behind
them. Know them for sure.
The product is only as good as the people, right? So that's kind of something that we watch for, and you know, we try to introduce to all players. So we sit over here and try to be Switzerland and you know, get to know all the folks and refer dealers to the places that make the most sense. And so that's kind of how we've chosen to act as coaches. But go ahead, Michelle.
So I wanted to dive into Florida, new job. Yeah. So I'm sure that it's too early for you to make any big announcements about things that you're doing and all of that fun kind of stuff. But I'm sure we have an awful lot that's coming. Now, when is the conference this year?
It's going to be October 29th through 31st at the Hilton Bonnet Creek, where it was this last year in January. Seems like a year, but it's only been a few months.
Yeah.
So we're back there. I'm excited to put together. I've put together an agenda or two in my day for a convention. So I'm excited about the opportunity there to make sure that everybody's well represented, and then that it's educational for the dealers. And it's an exciting. Again, we're kind of internally talking about the new FIADA, and I hope that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings about the old FIADA, but we got to somewhat reinvent ourselves. I mean, I'm in the state here that I was born and raised in. We have 11,000. I just talked to the DMV people yesterday in Tallahassee. We have 11,000 independent dealers in this state.
Wow. 11,000.
We're the third most populous state in this country, and so I've got a lot of work to do, because we're going to get them engaged and involved and show the value of state association and national association membership.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. We have seen in the time that I've been familiar with FIADA that it's lost some traction at times. So I think to say the new FIADA, you're just trying to find some new traction and get people energized about it. But I know you're a guy who can help create value over there.
Sure.
So bring a lot of expertise. And we also understand that as an independent association, you have both buy here, pay here, and retail dealers to serve over there. And we won't be any help on the independent retail side. We don't know anything about that.
There are some things that are a little bit
fair enough. And you know, The challenge is, as you guys are figuring out from what it is you do, is we live in a very changing world. It's generationally changing, technology changing, where what is the best way to deliver on our promises and on our mission? And so many things have changed, and people, like, they want to look at a TikTok video or a YouTube video for all their answers. We've got to figure out how we give them the most value in pieces and bite sizes that they can absorb, without major commitments to days and weeks and travel. And so we're going to figure it out. We're excited. I mean, certainly there's a lot of upside here for all of us at FIADA. We did just move our offices over to Sarasota, so I get to keep my house and my wife, so that's a plus. But we got a lot of things. We're in the planning stages of a lot of things we're going to roll out, and from an educational standpoint. And you guys know, everyone always worries about who we're competing against for training and education. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's just the silliest thing. I mean, you can't get enough, and there's always a different viewpoint.
Yes.
But we're bound to give our dealers pre-licensing and continuing education to keep their license, and the compliance training, which dealers need and hate at the same time. But we're also going to make sure that we upgrade all the operational education, and then, like what you guys have done some of, which is, I always call it the financial literacy of running a business. Because I talked to dealers over all the years of moderating 20 groups and consulting for them. They'd always say, "But I'm a car guy," and I'm like, "You're a business person." And you have to you have to know where you stand in a cash flow and a balance sheet, not just a P&L statement that might be worthless to you because you have no money in the bank. But then when you're making your decisions for your future, I mean, if you're going to grow your business, get a bigger footprint, change your business model, can I help you perform that idea to see what it's going to make and what it's going to cost? And a lot of guys just go, "Yeah, but a dealership was opened up and I can buy it or I can lease it." It's like, okay, that's a bad reason.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because you're going to be one of our expert contributors at the event next week. We're excited to have you there. I think I can share with you that Michelle and I, in our travels, we see the same thing. You must have seen it as much or more, where dealers are kind of on this hamster wheel, and we just see it as a way. So we had a fun conversation with Brent Carmichael and Mark Burkholder not long ago on the show about absenteeism. It's like, what is it that keeps dealers from being able to move toward absenteeism? And you're grinning because you see it.
I see it.
Of it. And so we know that.
How about successful admin?
I understand. Right? Not running and hiding.
Right. Good.
Like purposeful absenteeism.
That's a good caveat. No, I think that's part of what we see. And so we're taking that one on. It's kind of a touchy thing for some, because it's uncomfortable to talk about some of the things that are the limitations often, but we're just taking it on. We're just saying, let's try to help dealers move from where they are to where we know they'd like to be in terms of being away more. And I pulled up some stuff to share. We got some, I think about the Kiyosaki thing. We can't share it here because I discovered the format's wrong, but bottom line, I can tell you that
it's really good.
Thanks.
No, it's something a lot of people are familiar with. I think it came from the Robert Kiyosaki book about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is that thing about transitioning from being self-employed to being a business owner, which is just what you're talking about. And we want to help dealers do that. So that's part of the literacy thing you're talking about. It's just introduce people to that concept. And we want to spend that day on March 30th helping dealers figure out exactly what are the pieces that are missing in my business today that would keep me from being able to move.
Can I make a comment too that now buy here, pay here became a thing like in the 60s?
Chuck would know better.
Well, I would tell you that, the first dealer finance car was in like the 20s. I have buy here, pay here dealers, families that were in the post World War II, but still very rare. Probably the mid to late 80s is when it exploded. And it really is because the cash car business vanished because of car prices.
Yes. And so kind of what just my perspective, I'm the new kid on the block, and I just get to observe without lots and lots of stories and filters in front of what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is that we've got a whole massive batch of dealers that are exactly in this place right now that they're like, what's next? Because I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't, I want to have some free time. It's time for me to retire. It's time. And they just, it's like, so am I liquidating? am I turning this over to my son-in-law?
Yep.
Am I selling? And
and what if my son-in-law doesn't want it? Then
or can
or
I
shouldn't do it? We got a lot of those.
Business that I can be gone for part of the year and then around during the rest of the year. So yeah, it seems like I just see that. It's like
there's like I said, I know you guys are doing this, and I know you've talked about it a lot, and I've done a lot of it over the years. Certainly it's a blessing if you have a succession plan with a family member who wants to do it. The challenge sometimes in Buy Here, Pay Here is it's hard to say no to it when you compare it to other options you may have out of high school or out of college. And then, of course, if you're a father or mother who's getting you to do this, doesn't put you through the paces, working in all departments, learning the entire business. It's hard. And then you've got the dads and moms who don't want their children to feel any pain by making mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes. And then I've got some dealers, and some of them are very large dealers, who I think their plan is they're planning to live forever. I mean, they have no plan. It's like, are you kidding me?
I at my desk.
It's like, because I go, I can't guarantee you anything about the economy and the cost of cars and income and finding employees, but you are going to die.
Yeah, that's a good consultant.
Taxes, death.
That's right.
Yeah, that's good. That's we kind of picked that up from Mark Burkholder about the three ways dealers leave the Buy Here, Pay Here business. Right, that's one of them that we don't like that scenario.
No, and nobody should. And some of it is a little short-sighted, and some of it, in some cases, I've found is a little bit cruel and unfair to people who've worked really hard to help you provide, to provide your family wealth, a great living, and money and things for your children, to leave them hanging that way. And then, of course, there's always the disasters that happen, because I've 20 plus years of consulting for dealers. I've seen some young people pass away.
Yeah,
of course.
Not prepared. And I know I've talked to Mark over the years about, those kind of subjects like wills and trusts, and in the event of my incapacitation or death, here's what we need to do. No one wants to do that. I get it. But we got to be grown-ups about this stuff, because we have a legacy, and we have people that depend on us.
Yeah. Peter Salinas just asked a question. Are there some challenges to Florida used car dealers unique to this state?
Maybe.
There's too darn many. And Jim and Michelle, you guys lived here. When you're driving through Clearwater, it's like there's more than there are Wawas, right? There is a car dealer on every corner.
Really is. Yeah.
I think
11,000 is what you said.
It's
right?
11,000 dealer licenses. Diving down. I know Jeff Martin did this at Texas one time, where you say, let's dive into the data and find out who are real dealers. So I think we have as many car dealers as we have real estate agents, because you just get your license and you do it a couple times and you're considered that. But it's probably a far lesser number than that. But Florida's also, with 22.5 or 23 million people living here. Every large auto group, and Vroom and Carvana has a huge presence, and we're the home of Auto Nation here in South Florida. Dealers are always worried about the little guy in the corner stealing their business. And I said, if I have any fear as an independent dealer, it's the big guys coming in here and our source of inventory being auctions in many cases. And are they going to be retailers someday? But it's a lot of people, but it's a lot of people selling cars. So that's the trade-off when you're in the small town. Jim, you've been in a small town before. It's like, hey, it's great. People don't make a lot of money. They don't have a lot of choices. So we have to take care of them that way. In places like California, Texas, and Florida, I mean, they crank out Buy Here, Pay Here customers like Doritos, right? They just keep making more of them. It's just now, how can we fund them, and how can we put them in a good car loan at the right price with the right down and the right terms? Become more challenging today than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Hey, no more mention of Doritos.
I'm trying to get rid of all of that kind of stuff in the house.
So one of the things that happens, Chuck, we meet a lot of people, and we work a lot with startups, people that are brand new in the business, and we'll hear dealers reach out and say, hey, I want to get in business, and I understand that down payment can cover the cost of the car, and I won't have any risk. I'm thinking, who did you learn that business model? Was that your uncle or your grandfather?
It had to be a grandfather.
That's generations. And that's the dealer and look, we're not trying to knock anybody's model. It's just that the world has changed, and so that's a challenging thing. That might be a volume of 7 cars a year.
That is exactly when someone says that that's what they do in their town. I said, listen, I'm not telling you can't do it. I'm jealous of you, because when I got in the business, between a down payment and a pickup payment or two, we were out of the car. right? Before we even put a metal plate on the car. I mean, those were wonderful times,
Sure.
but long ago.
Yeah, and it's all the more reason I think that why Michelle and I are kind of choosing to aim at these things that help dealers. They're going to have to figure out how to adapt and get on a better footing to be able to compete with the big folks who are they're better capitalized, they're more efficient in delivering their services. And so, unless we just want to give all of that business to them, we're going to have to, get with the program in some areas and figure some of this stuff out. So we're happy to say that. Sometimes it's uncomfortable for dealers to hear, but we're okay with, getting them to move.
Yeah, and we're in a bit of a cycle where subprime has dove pretty deep into our customer base. But I can tell you, and then having like Tommy Brandis on this podcast and on others with you, people like him can tell you that, you know what, there's a lot of customers that he has, I will bet you lunch, that don't need to go to his place. They've earned enough good car credit, but their experience through the car buying process and the loan servicing process was good enough that they're going to stick with you. And that's kind of that intangible type thing that sometimes there's no immediate reward, and dealers love immediate rewards.
Yeah. And we always encourage, and Tommy's a great example. We just encourage playing the long game. He celebrated his 30th anniversary on our show last June. And so it's like, playing the long game and buy here, pay yours. Especially, I think that's more true the smaller the community is.
Amen.
Just got to get out there and connect with people and learn to win at that level. And then that's something the big boys can't do. They can't compete at that level.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of dealers talk about, I can't offer the car that these people do, and this and that, and then, or they want to chase that. And I go, chasing better income, higher credit people is probably a losing battle. Find your niche, do a really good job at it, and you'll have repeat business for eternity. The thing that I've watched dealers who've gone from $3,000 to $4,000 ACV cars when I first started consulting in 2000 to today, that same car is $12,000, and now they're they're financing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 cars, and it's like, you are competing against every new car dealer, and every credit union, and every Carvana, and Vroom, and CarMax, and everybody else out there. That's a tough place to play.
Yeah. I got a little tangent from me.
Okay.
When Chuck mentioned he started consulting in 2000, I'm going to offer a smoked old fashioned for anybody who can produce a photo of me together at some of those Christmas parties.
That's right. I think those are all burned. You could probably put a picture of any. That's what it used to look like. Who knows? It was a lot of hair ago.
That's funny.
That is funny.
So Chuck and I worked together at CarBiz in Sarasota.
That was
like a long time ago, but
it is now.
Yeah. Peter had another question. Is most of the Hispanic dealerships I see in Florida are buy here, pay here? Do you have any?
One of the challenges in nationally, but Florida and California and Texas, Arizona, and a lot of the Sun Belt states, which have high Hispanic populations and a lot of immigrants to this country. First of all, they get into the car business because restaurants and cars is something that you can break into, right? You don't need a doctorate degree. You don't need any specialized training. You just kind of figure it out yourself. But Hispanics in general have historically been challenged by banking. And sometimes it's just the language barrier. Some of it is that same thing that, can you give me a business plan? I don't really know what a business plan is. And, I said, so you want me to lend you, which used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars and now is always in the millions of dollars. And you say you have a dream, and a dream for lending millions of dollars is not enough. So it's always been a challenge. It's certainly still a challenge for African Americans and Caucasians and everybody else out there, because the amount of capital required to crank this up. Someone says, well, I tried to get an SBA. I go, well, an SBA will last a month.
Yeah.
And what dealers don't recognize sometimes is that you're not looking for a term loan. You've got to have a revolving line. That's how this works.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to earn it. And then we've got the next step, which is when I tell dealers, here are some people, because there are companies out there, Spartan and Primal Lend come to my mind right away, that will get you going without all the experience and all the tax returns and audited financials. And then they say, well, the rates are high. It's like, the only thing more expensive than expensive capital is no capital.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere, and you haven't got a track record that you can manage that type of money and manage that kind of credit line. And then I think if I talk for Mark Van Giesen or Paxton, right, they'll tell you, it's like, we're okay if you graduate from us. And and you actually have enough experience to get a bank line.
Sure.
It's okay. It's just what we do this is our niche. And when dealers, you got to get in there and you got to learn what it's all about, and I'd much rather you have a line of credit like that than maybe even a floor plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Owning your inventory is a really great place to be. And the line of credit is to help you leverage the portfolio you already have to grow it.
Very good.
Right. So it's got a return on it.
So Peter says he has photos.
Oh no, he doesn't. He probably does.
And then Ramon guy says good morning, and so does Tim Bird.
Yeah.
So,
good morning.
Yeah. I Peter, if you've got them.
No, that's offline.
Well, that's to me.
Now see how this has turned. Chuck will now be buying me a smoked old fashioned.
Yes, I certainly will.
You see that worked out for you.
Absolutely. It's I'd like to get together for a smoked old fashioned one.
That's a deal.
It's been a minute. I know that at the place that the Hilton Bonnet Creek, their restaurant in there, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and the place next door, their sister property, the Waldorf. Very good. Yep.
Yes, it was wonderful.
So if I caught your dates right, October 29th through 31st. So folks should pack their Halloween costumes.
I know. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, I love planning a good party.
I know. What's funny too is that, when I first saw that it was contracted, it was like, oh, great. The Halloween part didn't really strike me as much as the last 2 days of the month. And then I started thinking about how many times I've heard that from dealers, and it ties back to your absenteeism. It's like, if you have to be there at the end of the month, something's wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right? That's a really good point.
Right? Yep. And then, of course, we're all driven by these accounting time periods that are somewhat meaningless. It's like, well, what? So if we don't sell those last 3 cars on the 31st, we sell them on the 1st. I've never really understood that. When I came from another industry, I used to scratch my head, and I went to a dealership that kept the months open. Do you ever do that, Jim? We're going to keep the month open 3 more days. Well, that just cuts the next month by 3 days.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I used to ask dealers. It's come up a couple of times. And it's a perfect example. Like Michelle's heard me ask dealers, look, this is an exaggerated example, but ask yourself, what's the difference in the impact of your business? Just pick January through March.
Sure.
If you sold 30 in January, February, and March each month versus selling 90 in March, ask yourself, what's the real difference to you?
Yep.
And so it's just a way to kind of break that down even further. Just say, ask yourself, what is it making you stay on that hamster wheel and feel like you'd have to sell? Like these contracts you're putting on the books are running off for 4 years. We don't have the same urgency. Urgency is appropriate, obviously in the sales environment, but it's like sometimes we let it get a little out of control. And so it's like, that's the part that I try to introduce dealers to the idea that.
Well, the dealers that I've met with that have the light bulb went off on their head is, I started in a world where 50% of your annual business was during tax time, although it was all paper tax time. So it lasted 90 days. But if you didn't have a good tax time, the year was over. But I told dealers, I said, if you want to sell 480 cars this year and that became 40 every month, oh, that's a blessing, because it is.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everything is just easier and streamlined and manageable. You're not running around on fire and dependent, and then just know that it's already over. The other thing that dealers do is like, whatever Jim, you've done this with them. You start talking about managing cash flow. And I always ask them, well, how many deals can you finance out of your cash flow? And there's a lot of looks. But number one, it's like, okay, if the number's 5, if the number's 25, if the number's 505, that part I don't care about. I said, but you want to work at as many applications and talk to as many people as you can. So if you can't afford to do them all and you can be even more selective, then my argument is your portfolio should be even better than the guys who are doing what we lovingly used to call, Jim, end of the month deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Where all of a sudden we threw our underwriting away because we're short, crazy stuff. And then we're surprised that they didn't work out well.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you talked about running around on fire. Like in my experience, that's the worst time to make underwriting decisions.
Terrible.
It just pressurized, and we talked about with an episode with Brett Carmichael a while back, that whole idea about being under the pressure of a line of credit, having to outsell delinquencies or those kinds of things.
And all liquidation. You're just running.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, this is the same kind of thing that dealers, get into. When you're in a growth mode organically and you can use their money and use their line and maybe even max out their line and get more availability, all those things, that's fine. But when you're paying for a line that you're no longer needing, how many dealers have you talked to, Jim, that said, well, I'm going to pay that down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like create some, and it's like I said, this is a credit card that you have maxed out. You're paying interest forever. And you're actually running your business on your own capital, but paying the interest to do so. And it can get you to a place where I know my company, we opened up, we were at 27 stores at one point, so we had $100 million line of credit. And we were rapidly burning through that as we went through it. But you found yourself making business decisions based on your line of credit and not on good business sense.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. So being in control, or at least the illusion of control of what you do and how you slow down or speed up, is a really good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's actually a great segue for something we wanted to talk about for what's coming up. And we're yet to set a date, but we've already chosen a topic for our next all day live stream, and it's going to be on deal structure. And Jim,
yeah, so we really want to talk about that. And I've always said, Chuck, that in my experience, there are two types of structure in a business that have a lot of impact on, or at least mitigate a lot of the risk.
Sure.
One is this deal structure to the consumer, and the other is going to be the structure of capitalization, how we capitalize the business, how we structure that has a lot of impact. But if we focus on this deal structure one of the things that I look forward to doing is just doing the best I can to bring the data experts together. One of my frustrations in our industry is we just don't have a good kind of transparent pool of aggregate data across the sector. We've got pockets. Everybody's got their own pool of data, and some are kind of secretive about that or not fully transparent. And I'm just going to try to spend the day bringing data experts with real transparent data to talk about what are the real deal structures, like what makes the most sense for us.
That's right.
Independence, because we know there's an answer there. We know the data is going to tell us what performs well. And I'm just going to be a bulldog about it. I'm just going to stay after it. And I'm happy for you to join us. And let's just figure out, how do we get to enough data that we can help dealers make better decisions? And there are people out there who are amassing good pools of data, but let's talk about it. Let's be as transparent as we possibly can and help all these dealers make better decisions, because I'm often frustrated about, people at the conferences or wherever you're having a conversation and people are talking about, $8,000 ACV performs better than 6,000. I think, can you show me that? Can you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've asked that before, and you're really talking to the wrong guy who was $1 Chuck in his dealership career. Got no money down from people. But I would tell people that I asked that same kind of question. And I just said that, when we're looking at this stuff, that's why a lot of the scoring models that were, like AutoZoom in the beginning of time, and even Neo, a lot of them are, there's a deal structure side and there's the consumer profile side. And I said, look, if someone's an axe murderer, I don't care how much they have down. Right? It doesn't change that they're an axe murderer.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Or they have 12 repos is really what I should be saying. But that's one of the things that I learned, because we did static pools on, I think 35 or 40,000 loans that we originated over time. And you've got to kind of dig into kind of what's behind. So for us, historically, regardless of down payment, our tax business, February, March, had the historically high charge-off rates.
Gotcha.
And then what we had said, and what we went to our, we saw these rates that were based on origination months were spiked in those months. And we still went to our bank and said, yeah, but let me show you how much we net, because our volume was so high, right? Like my December business historically was, 7 to 10% total loss over life, but I did no business. So it's always, we're always just trying to mitigate risk. We're in a risk business. And if you're trying to avoid risk, go do something else.
Yeah. Good point. It's about managing the risk here.
Yeah.
And again, I'd like to get all the data nationally for people. I'd like to do it. We did it with our 20 group forever and ever to try to get it. But, as you guys are well aware, there's people on this podcast right now that buy here, pay here is not buy here, pay here. Like when you did Rick Reeves, buy here, pay here, right? Where go out and buy a $2,000 car, and everybody does that and set it up for an 18 to 24 month loan, because we've got people who I've got guys who have $700, $800, $900 a month car payments for 60 months. You can't use my data for what you do.
Sure. Good point.
Right. And that's what you got to get to. That's why you have to develop your own data. And of course, we can't be anecdotal about it. You know, a lot of, to your point, that's what I hear all the time. It's like, yeah, but I know they do. It's like, okay, let's go look at the data and says, does it really prove that out?
Yeah.
Well, that's my problem is you just have so many dealers that we talk to that are saying somebody at the auction told me such and such. And I'm thinking, that's how to adjust your business model. You know, that's not so I'm not saying you should listen to me and not them. I'm saying, let's go find the data so you can decide for yourself.
That's right.
Numbers don't lie.
Because everybody's business model can be different, but let's all understand, let's operate from data that we can.
That's right. You know, it's I'll leave you with this one. It's one of the guys I partnered with my lease here, pay here. He said, you know, he took a lot of formal education about stuff, and the thing that he found out is that human beings, not car dealers, we're the worst of the worst. Is we make a lot of decisions based on things that have happened to us in the very recent past that cloud over long-term judgment. You know, if you've had 2 temp workers repo this month, you know, you're going to change your underwriting guidelines. We're never doing a temp agent ever again. Instead of, Jim, what you do, which I told him was like, well, let's go back over time and look at it. Right.
Sure.
And make the decisions that we're going to, you know, mitigate the risk or turn them down altogether. But if you had to, you know, or certain cars repo all the time. It's like, that can't be true.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is a Buy Here, Pay Here morning show. We have spent a lot of time talking Buy Here, Pay Here, but I think we should wrap up by talking about Florida. We just let's just kind of make sure we understand. You got a lot of work ahead of you.
A lot.
We want to have you back on the show from time
to time.
Oh,
yes, please.
Of course.
Love
and so, we can, we'll probably talk a little more Buy Here, Pay Here when you come, but we just also want to talk about your industry and your opportunity there. So we see, you know, great opportunities. We know a handful of the dealers in Florida. So you got some great dealers there who really will be good resources and be good champions.
We do. We have a lot of great board members, and I hate to say that there's a few of us old guys out there on it, but there's a lot of young blood out there that are going to help us connect with dealers. I don't know if you know this, but when I got into this business in the late 80s, my sister married a Buy Here, Pay Here dealer, and I became his CFO. But lo and behold, he was the president of FIADA.
Oh, wow.
And he was a national quality dealer. I mean, so I never knew this business without that side of it. So sometimes that's a struggle for me because I can't for the life of me figure out why would you not join this association? It's such a great resource for all things you're going to need to stay out of trouble and grow your business and be more successful. And, you know, but we're going to do it, and we're going to find the ways to reach them, and we're going to be very, very responsive to them through what we offer to dealers here in Florida.
Good. Well, we've done it at the national level. I'll start trying to slip in some subliminal messages.
He's really good at it. He's really good at it.
Folks will be joining for reasons they don't even understand.
They don't even know, but I want Doritos, so it might be working.
You get it.
Hey, Chuck, thanks so much. So joining us this morning. If you can, just stick around backstage for just so we can chat with you before we go. Again, Chuck will be joining us next week at our all day long event on Thursday, and we just really appreciate you joining us today. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put you backstage. Great show, stuff, really good stuff. Appreciate again, I really appreciate Chuck joining, and he's a busy guy right now.
He's well traveled. I started to say high mileage. He and I might go high mileage. We understand that's a compliment when you have a little and high mileage as a consultant. But.
Hey guys, have a great rest of your day and weekend. And make sure you join us next on Monday. And also don't forget, the event is happening on Thursday. You can still do a $100 off with Morning Show 100. So we will see you guys all later. Have a great rest of your day.